All right, good morning, everybody. I hope everybody had a good summer, and boy, did it go by fast. I'm pleased to host this roundtable again today on the continued steps that we are taking in the Riverlife project area. I'm happy and proud to create and to host these roundtables for specific issues facing the city and allow all of you direct access to both myself and city staff for questions and answers. Over the past 2 years, the city has communicated through a record number of press releases and media events like this one on a variety of topics and our continued goal of improving openness and transparency. Now, I know sometimes I sound like a broken record. I really do try and strive for us to continually improve our engagement with all of you in order to let our residents and the media know what is happening. There are really so many great and positive things going on in Wausau, and it's truly my honor to tell our story. Earlier this week, we again have released a press release summarizing some of the steps taken to date regarding the Riverlife project and its future, and once again, we are available this morning to answer your questions. Since the default notices were sent out in May of this year, the city has allowed the current developer, Barker Financial, to cure the defaults under the ground leases and development agreements, which included a non-payment to this contractor and the subcontractors, resulting in the loss of forward momentum in this project, which occurred back in the late spring of this year. Both considered events of the developer's default in the city's agreements on this project. Previous to that, the developer had met all the required benchmarks in this project. For the public's knowledge, we provided updates at numerous Economic Development Committee and Finance Committee meetings, as well as City Council meetings during the winter and spring of this year, to provide information to the City Council and to all of our residents of all what is happening as events unfolded. And we've only had 2 closed sessions to consult with the legal counsel to discuss the legal strategy with regard to the city's rights and how to proceed. Now, I'm sure you can appreciate that because these steps are sensitive legally, we've not been able to share everything as quickly as we would have liked. But as I've stated before, I am confident that we've stepped through this process correctly and especially legally. Our staff and our outside counsel at Corals and Brady draft outstanding development agreements that protect the city's interests and give us the tools to move forward if a developer fails in their responsibilities. I want to be clear that we have shared as much information as we could to date, and again today we hope to share some more. This past Tuesday, the Economic Development Committee recommended the termination of the 4 ground leases and 2 development agreements that we have with Barker Financial Limited. As many of you know, in February of 2016, the City Council at that time chose Franz Community Investors, led by Mike Franz, and that the vote was unanimous to have him become the developer of this project. At that time, Franz Community Investors had a strong reputation in the state and region, had successfully tackled a variety of complex redevelopments, and had a strong balance sheet of assets and cash, and was properly vetted by the city staff and the City Council at that time. Unfortunately, a lot has happened in the past 18 months for them. We at the City of Wausau do treat developers fairly, but we also must hold them accountable. If they are not able to move forward on their commitments, for whatever reason, then we will find a new partner. Now, to Mike Franz's credit, he assembled a team of local partners and personally updated the Economic and Finance Committees and the City Council at numerous times over the past year. He also did work to assemble investor cash when his own resources were impacted, and he brought in Barker Financial as a current developer so the Riverlife project would not be legally entangled with his ongoing issues at the Hotel Northland project in Green Bay. We are aware that the current development team, Barker and Franz, has had many discussions with investors and lending institutions, and that while many of those discussions may have been positive, the bottom line is that the defaults were not cured or resolved by the August 22nd, 2018 deadline. And as you can all now see, the City of Wausau is moving forward. In our being proactive, in case the cure period was not achieved, the city, in late May 2018, immediately released a request for information or proposal for the Riverlife project. We have received 2 proposals for the current Riverlife Villages Phase 1 project, along with 1 other project for a new development in an area of the site not currently leased to Barker Franz. We have noted the positive news that 2 established developers are interested in the current project on similar terms and with little to no changes, and this underscores the marketability of the area and validity of the project. The Economic Development Committee has invited those developers who submitted their proposals to attend the October 2nd, 2018 meeting to share an overview of their vision and their plans for the project and to be available to answer questions. Our staff and outside attorneys are working to negotiate terms to remove the liens, select a new master developer, and then move the project forward. And as I stated in the press release from earlier this week, when the city of Wausau welcomes investment, holds partners accountable, and follows processes correctly and legally, we move forward, we advance, and we grow. Obviously, others share in this vision and the marketability of this project, and we will move forward to have this project completed, and will again do so in a proper and legal way. And at this time, we welcome your questions. Shereen?
Yeah, I've got a couple of questions. So you're referring to the current development team as Barker and Friends.
Thank you. You're referring to the current development team as Barker and France. Can you explain how this all went? Because according to our records, Barker was meant to be a gap financer, which Mr. Schock had reiterated to us a couple of times in emails and to the city council, and then France came on. So are they working together, or?
I'll let Chris handle this one.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. We're of course glad to clarify. It has been a process over 2 years with a couple different entities. The common thread has been France Community Investors and Mike France through that process. The original RFP response came from France Community Investors, I think, as you know, and the mayor clarified. Mike's has a relationship with Barker Financial and brought Barker Financial in to the equation, as we noted again, and he had noted in previous updates to the committee and the council, as a gap financer and also as a key party to kind of not entangle the project in the Hotel Northland specifically. And then, as you also know, there was discussion and council approval, but not completion, of transferring the project from Barker Financial to Quantum, which Quantum's principals or parties involved Mike France as well. So each entity has always had the common thread of Mike France. I think the mayor's just alluding today that even though the again, we clarified the developer of record is Barker Financial, but when we say the development team, we are aware that Mike has been in constant contact with Barker Financial, and that he has, attempted or is working to get financing, but not by the deadline. And so that's what's important to note to everyone, is that, there has been, we're aware of positive loan commitment letters and other things that have been received on the project. But again, there's a window for curing a default. It wasn't cured in that window, and so the council, has considered that importantly, and then decided to, obviously the committee decided to recommend moving on.
Okay, thank you. And I only have a couple of questions. I won't take too much time, I swear. Are you having conversations with other potential developers at this time, outside of the ones that responded to the RFP? Have you had any contact with other ones who might be interested in taking over the project?
No. Obviously we follow the RFP process pretty diligently. So we opened that window, and we received 2 proposals. We have only spoken with those developers. I suppose obviously the city always welcomes inquiries. If there was someone interested, we'd note that there is a significant amount of land still in the area that isn't associated with any ground lease at the moment. So we certainly welcome any developer who says, hey, I'd be interested in building in Wausau or on the Riverlife area. And frankly, the city will have in the coming years, redevelopment opportunities at the current Wausau chemical site and at the current Great Lakes cheese site. And so, it really will be a long-term commitment to redevelopment along the riverfront area, along the whole Riverlife area. And so we'll need many parties. I think we've noted before, the Riverlife vision, which of course includes a lot of public space, is bigger than just any one developer. And so, while it's unfortunate that, France Community Investors was not able to kind of bring the project to completion in that window, they did set a foundation by doing the planning, and literally a foundation in the ground, and the other steps that have brought us to this point, and we'll move forward.
And the architectural designs, are those owned by the city, or do they, if Barker and France go away, do those designs go away with it?
Yeah, great question. So, as part of the pre-development loan, the plans were collateralized to the city. And so the city, in essence, paid for those plans and received, that collateralization from the architect. So now any additional changes or alterations would be negotiated between the new developer and whoever they choose as an architect or contractor or whoever. In theory, when the city chooses a new master developer, they could choose a different path. They could choose a different design, they could choose a different contractor and those kind of things. Although, as the mayor had noted, a strong local team had been assembled for the project. They're obviously very familiar with it, and and the plans are kind of ready to go. In some of the requests for interest that were received, that you have probably seen, the developers kind of expressed confidence in the current project and the current team by noting that they would take over the project essentially as it's designed, but there may be changes that come in the future. And I think on October 2nd, that will be a prime question that the committee will be asking the proposers, what is your vision? What is the scope of the project? Where do you see future steps as well? Not just these foundations, but rather, the next project and those kind of things.
Okay, I'm still fuzzy. So the city does own the rights to the architectural designs?
Correct. We have a signed collateral statement from the architect.
Okay. I know that one of the developments that was underway had mixed use. It was a mixed use facility. There were some commitments from some potential retail or office partners. Do you know how many of those were from out of Wausau, or were they from within Wausau?
Yeah, we don't know that.
Okay.
Obviously there have been reports from the representative of the project, who handled the leasing, that there had been positive interest and that there were these representations, but the city wouldn't be involved with that per se.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, and then my one last question is what is the current plan to deal with the lien issue? It looked to me as though none of the 3 RFPs that came in really wanted to even touch that roughly $3 million lien. So what's the city's strategy going to be moving forward?
Sure, great question. The mayor alluded there in his speech that we're in discussions to have those liens negotiated in some way. Either the new developer takes them on, there's some kind of negotiated settlement, and we can't go into a lot of detail on that now, as you can appreciate, because it is part of the negotiation. But we're confident that there is a path forward, and that's what we'll be working to solidify in the coming weeks, and we'll see how that goes.
When some of the first problems with Quantum started cropping up, there was talk on the council of instituting some new procedures for vetting developers and that kind of thing. Are you guys talking about that, or is there anything new that you're planning to institute going forward?
Sure. So we did. So the council changed the TIF application process to have a series of declarations related to past defaults and other kind of questions related to credit worthiness, and so those were incorporated in the TIF agreement, and the council had passed that. So we're hopeful that those kind of stopgap measures will help highlight some of the issues, at least in front. I think the key is understanding just because an investor or a developer has had a problem in their past doesn't necessarily disqualify them from participating on a project. In real estate, a lot of developers have had projects go various ways over the years, so it's not unusual, but I think the key is the declaration and clarification of it, so that it's open and transparent with everyone as to what's happened in the past and how that's declared.
And then just one more question. Do you guys have a sense at this point of timeline in terms of how long it's gonna take before, you know, construction on the site can be up and running again?
Sure, yeah, great question.
It's still a little too early to say. You know, we've got to go through the process, go through all these proposals, have the presentations, brought forward questions, make it where it's public and people know what's happening. It was the first time as well. Unfortunately, things turned for the developer at that time. But yes, it's gonna take some time, but I can't give you an exact ironclad date at this time. But we plan on moving forward throughout the winter and the spring. Michael?
All right, I think I've asked both of you this question last week, but I'll ask it again. Is this the end of the relationship with Mike Franz with the city of Wausau? I know in theory, he maybe could find his way back on, but would you plan on doing business with him again on this project?
Well, I guess, the committee has recommended, extinguishing the current relationship. That will go to council on 9/11. Assuming that the council approves that, the mayor signs that resolution, then that would kind of end the current relationship, future relationships, I guess, is not known.
I'll be more candid, no.
And then follow up to that, is there any chance then that Mike Franz can come back and possibly sue the city and hold this project up further, for the work there, the money that he's already sunk into it? Or is the city protected from that?
Well, I mean, we wouldn't want to comment on, kind of legal issues like that, but, obviously, that will be part of settlement discussions.
Anybody else? Mr. Smith?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dennis Smith, Alderman for the 11th District. Two questions. You indicated Franz and Baker are kind of joined at the hip. I've gone through all the documents for this project, and I can find no documents whatsoever that show Mike Franz has any more interest in this business. Now, he can certainly talk to Barker. He can call up and talk to me. That doesn't necessarily mean he should be involved in the project. My second question is, the liens that are on this property now certainly are a stumbling block to any future development. Can you give me a solid answer that the city has no intention of paying off those liens to get this project going forward again?
Sure. So, good question. One, I don't believe we use the term joined at the hip. I use the analogy of common thread, meaning that they have a relationship, and you're correct, it's not a contractual relationship. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
Okay. And then, secondly, I think, that will be part of the discussion, and you as an alderman know, these discussions have already, will take place, have been discussed in closed session, will be part of the settlement agreement that will come forward, as it moves forward. Any new developer will have to have some kind of, understanding of what the landscape is. It's not to say that the city is paying it or the developer is paying it. We've highlighted before that the city obviously is involved in this project. We already have an incentive amount that was to facilitate the construction of foundations. And so, and that was written in the development agreement. So all this will be, kind of determined in the settlement process. We want to be very clear that our goal is to ensure that the project moves forward. I'm sure your goal as well, is to make sure the project moves forward without, without a lot of impact to the taxpayers and to the city any more than what was originally agreed to. And we're confident that there's an opportunity to do that.
So it is possible that the city will in some way participate in paying off these liens?
No, I think you're, I don't know how to answer that specific question. Again,
Yes or no would do it.
Well, I would note to you again, as you well know, that the city had already approved participation in the project. So, there already is city money in the project. If you want to say that it's paying off liens, if it's contributing to the project in some way, I think that's part of the process that will result in a final agreement, which the council will approve. So I'd rather not, go into details about what is decided yet. You'll decide that when it comes before the committee and
Thank
to
you.
the council itself.
I just have one more question.
I don't have the exact figure in front of me, but I know the city has already paid out somewhere in the neighborhood of $297,000, right?
It's 3.9.
Three, okay, thank you. And back when that happened, Mike France had given his personal guarantee for that. That's what we were told. Where does that stand? Does the city believe that, that they'll be able to recoup that? And if not, what happens next?
Sure, so I would want to make representations also, because it is, part of the settlement discussions. But it is guaranteed, by France, it's guaranteed by Barker Financial, who took over the agreement. So it's, it does, I think, we've always been very confident that adequate protections for the city's position, were codified within the agreements. And, that's one reason why, a handful of years ago, the city went through an RFP and contracted with Quarles and Brady specifically to develop stronger development agreements for the city that instituted a series of protections and hooks or tools to ensure that the city's position is well protected. So we remain confident in that. Of course, it does have to be part of, kind of the steps going forward.
I'll be more direct, we're gonna get our money back. And it was $372,000.